A blood-curdled scream shatters the masquerade's elegance. A painted mask hiding a killer's face as death stains the night. Welcome to the painted mask. Faces of a killer, a chilling Hercule Poirot mystery that twists through deception and danger. Grab a cup of tea, take a seat, and dive into the suspense. If you're gripped, hit subscribe. Your support means everything. Chapter 1. The Invitation to Deception. The fog clings to the cobblestone streets of 1930s London, a city pulsing with secrets and splendour. Hercule Poirot, the famed detective with his perfectly waxed moustache and piercing grey eyes, sits in his cosy apartment, sipping a tisane, when a silver tray arrives bearing an invitation. It's no ordinary card, embossed with gold filigree. It summons him to the grand masquerade ball at Hawthorne Manor, the sprawling estate of Lord Reginald Hawthorne, a man known for his wealth and enigmatic charm. Poirot's little grey cells hum with curiosity. The invitation's wording, though elegant, carries a faint note of desperation, as if Hawthorne is not merely hosting a party, but pleading for salvation. Intrigued, Poirot dons his finest evening attire, his polished shoes clicking as he steps into a taxi bound for the manor, sensing the night will unveil more than mere revelry. As the iron gates of Hawthorne Manor swing open, Poirot is greeted by a vision of opulence. The estate looms like a Gothic cathedral, its windows aglow with the flicker of 1,000 candles. Inside, the ballroom is a kaleidoscope of colour. Chandeliers cast diamond-like patterns. Silk gowns swirl across the marble floor, and every guest wears a mask crafted by Émile Duval, the celebrated artist whose painted creations are the talk of London. There's Lady Evelyn Hawthorne, her peacock feather mask shimmering, but her eyes flicker with unease, like a deer sensing a predator. Mr. Harlan Thorpe, a brash American tycoon, sports a bulldog mask that barely contains his booming laugh as he brags about his latest art acquisition. Then there's Duval himself, a wiry man with nervous hands, his own mask a stark white canvas streaked with black tears, a nod to tragedy that feels unsettlingly prophetic. Poirot, unmasked to preserve his clarity, observes them all, noting the whispers about the Mask of Eternity, a legendary artifact rumoured to be hidden in the manor's vaults, said to carry a curse that brings ruin to its possessor. The evening hums with music, a waltz that masks the undercurrents of tension. Poirot sips champagne, his ears catching fragments of conversation. A hushed argument between Thorpe and a young socialite, Miss Clara Voss, about a failed business deal. Lady Evelyn's clipped responses to Duval's inquiries about her husband's whereabouts, and a servant's muttered fear about strange shadows in the manor's east wing. Poirot's mind catalogues these details, his instincts whispering that the masks conceal more than identities. They hide motives. He examines the craftsmanship of the masks, each one unique. Clara's ruby-red mask with golden swirls, Thorpe's bulldog with exaggerated jowls, and Duval's tear-streaked design, all bearing the faint scent of fresh oil paint, as if touched up moments before the ball. Then, as the grandfather clock tolls midnight, the illusion shatters. A scream, sharp, raw, and filled with terror, cuts through the violins. The crowd parts, revealing Clara Voss crumpled on the floor, her ruby mask cracked down the centre, blood pooling beneath it like spilled wine. Her lifeless eyes stare upward, reflecting the chandelier's glow. Poirot kneels beside her, his gloved fingers tracing the mask's jagged edge. No weapon is visible, but the air carries that same oily paint smell, now mixed with the metallic tang of blood. He notices the mask's golden swirls have been altered, a single brushstroke added post-mortem, a deliberate mark, like a killer's signature. Mon Dieu, Poirot whispers. This is a murder most artful, a masterpiece of malice. Inspector Japp arrives, his moustache twitching with frustration as he surveys the scene. Robbery gone wrong, he declares, pointing to the untouched sapphire necklace around Clara's neck. Poirot shakes his head, his eyes narrowing. Non, inspecteur. The jewels remain, the body is posed, facing that mirror, as if the killer wishes us to see the crowd's masked faces reflected. This is personal, deliberate. He questions the key players. Lady Evelyn claims she was in the powder room, her voice trembling. Thorpe admits to arguing with Clara over a deal gone sour, but swears he left her alive. Duval stammers that he was adjusting masks in a side room, his paint-stained fingers fidgeting. Each story has a crack, a detail that doesn't align, and Poirot's mind begins to sketch the outline of a puzzle. For aspiring detectives watching, here's a tip to sharpen your skills. Always look for what's out of place. In a room full of masks, notice the one that's too perfect or too flawed. In life, practice spotting inconsistencies, someone's hesitation, a mismatched timeline. For example, if a friend says they were home all night but their shoes are muddy, that's your clue. Keep a mental notebook, like Poirot, and let the details guide you. As the guests are ushered to the drawing room for questioning, Poirot retreats to the manor's library, its walls lined with books on art, history, and deception. He runs his fingers over a tome about cursed artifacts, his mind racing. Clara's death is only the first stroke on this deadly canvas. Who among these masked figures wields the brush of murder, the scent of paint, the altered mask, the whispered curse of the mask of eternity? All point to a killer hiding in plain sight. The night is young, and the truth waits in the shadows of Hawthorne Manor. Chapter 2. Shadows in the gallery, Hercule Poirot stands alone in the dimly lit library of Hawthorne Manor, the echo of the ballroom's chaos fading behind him. The air is heavy with the scent of old leather and wax, but his mind is fixed on the murder of Clara Voss, her cracked mask a haunting image. He steps out into a corridor lined with portraits, their stern faces watching as he moves toward the manor's art gallery, a place rumoured to house secrets as dark as the night itself. The gallery, Lord Hawthorne's pride, is said to hold not only priceless paintings, but also clues to the elusive mask of eternity. Poirot's polished shoes click softly on the polished oak floor, each step measured, his eyes scanning for anything that might unravel the killer's next move. The gallery is a cavernous room, its walls draped in velvet and adorned with masterpieces, brooding landscapes, gilded portraits, and one striking canvas by Émile Duval, a masked figure cloaked in shadow, its eyes hollow yet piercing. Poirot pauses before it, noting the same meticulous brushwork he saw on Clara's altered mask. The painting feels alive, almost accusatory, as if it knows more than it reveals. A faint creak interrupts his thoughts, and he turns to see Lord Reginald Hawthorne himself, his silver wolf mask glinting in the candlelight. Hawthorne's voice is strained, his usual charm frayed. "Monsieur Poirot, I beg you, find who did this. Clara was like a daughter to us." Yet his hands clench, betraying a fear that runs deeper than grief. Poirot questions Hawthorne about the mask of eternity, and the Lord's eyes darken. He admits the artifact exists, a golden mask encrusted with emeralds, said to grant its wearer unnatural power, but at a terrible cost. It's locked in the manor's vault, accessible only by a key he wears around his neck. No one could have reached it, he insists. But Poirot notices the key is missing, replaced by a thin chain with nothing attached. Before he can press further, a crash echoes from the far end of the gallery. They rush to find a shattered vase, its fragments scattered near a hidden door ajar, leading to a narrow staircase descending into darkness. Dust motes swirl in the faint light, and a single footprint, small, deliberate, marks the floor, its edges smudged with dried paint. Poirot descends the staircase, Hawthorne trailing reluctantly. The passage opens into a dusty storage room filled with crates and covered canvases. One painting lies uncovered, its frame splintered. depicting a masked ball eerily similar to tonight's. In the corner, a table holds paintbrushes and vials of pigment, some still wet, their colours matching the streak on Clara's mask. Poirot's moustache twitches as he spots a scrap of fabric caught on a crate. Peacock blue, like Lady Evelyn's gown. Curieux, he murmurs, pocketing the clue. Hawthorne claims ignorance of the room, but his sweating brow tells another story. A sudden shout from above draws them back to the gallery. A maid, pale and trembling, reports seeing a figure in a black cloak slip through a side door, clutching something that glinted like gold. Poirot's mind races. Is it the mask of eternity or another deadly distraction? He examines the side door, finding it locked from the outside, yet a faint scratch on the frame suggests it was forced open recently. The killer, it seems, is playing a game, leaving breadcrumbs that lead both closer and further from the truth. As Poirot returns to the gallery, he notices Duval lingering near the shadowed painting, his fingers tracing its frame. A beautiful piece, no? Poirot asks, watching the artist flinch. Duval mutters about inspiration and leaves hastily, his black tear mask askew. Poirot lingers, his gaze returning to the painting's hollow eyes. The gallery holds more than art. It holds the killer's next clue, hidden in plain sight. The night grows colder, and the manor's walls seem to whisper of betrayal, urging Poirot toward the vault where the mask of eternity waits, its curse tightening like a noose. Chapter 3. The Vault of Secrets. Hercule Poirot's sharp eyes linger on the gallery's shadowed painting, but the call of the mysterious vault pulls him deeper into Hawthorne Manor's labyrinth. The air grows colder as he follows Lord Hawthorne through a maze of corridors, their footsteps echoing off stone walls adorned with faded tapestries. The Lord, still rattled from the storage room discovery, leads Poirot to a heavy oak door concealed behind a velvet curtain, its surface carved with intricate wolves baring their teeth. This is the entrance to the vault, where the mask of eternity is said to rest. Hawthorne's hands tremble as he produces a replacement key from his pocket, admitting the original was stolen earlier that evening, a detail he neglected to mention before. Poirot's moustache twitches with suspicion, but he says nothing, his mind already piecing together the puzzle. The door groans open, revealing a spiral staircase descending into a chamber lit by flickering torches. The vault is a crypt-like room, its walls lined with locked cabinets and a single pedestal at the centre, draped in black cloth. Poirot lifts the cloth, expecting the legendary mask, but finds only an empty stand, its velvet cushion indented as if recently robbed. A faint smudge of green pigment, emerald-like, matching the rumoured gems of the Mask of Eternity, marks the pedestal's edge. Mon Dieu, Poirot murmurs. The artifact is gone. Yet the thief leaves a trail. Hawthorne stammers, claiming no one but he knew the vault's location, but his eyes avoid Poirot's piercing gaze. As they search the chamber, Poirot notices a hidden panel in the wall, its edges barely visible. With a gentle press, it slides open, revealing a narrow alcove stuffed with papers, letters, maps, and a ledger detailing the Mask of Eternity's history. The documents speak of its origins in a forgotten temple, its power to sway minds, and a trail of deaths following its owners. One letter, signed by an unknown hand, warns Hawthorne to guard the mask or face its curse. The ink is fresh, the paper crisp, suggesting it was written mere days ago. Poirot pockets the letter, noting a faint scent of lavender clinging to it, a fragrance he recalls from Lady Evelyn's presence in the ballroom. A sudden clatter above breaks the silence. Poirot and Hawthorne ascend to find the ballroom in disarray, guests whispering, masks askew, as Inspector Japp barks orders. A second body has been found. A footman, slumped in a servant's passage, his plain white mask shattered, and his throat marked with a thin, precise cut. No blood stains the floor, suggesting he was moved after death, and a single peacock feather lies nearby, its vibrant blue a stark contrast to the grim scene. Poirot kneels, examining the wound. Clean, almost surgical, unlike Clara's chaotic demise. 2 murders, 2 masks, he muses. Yet the same hand paints this deadly picture. Japp, flustered, insists the footman stumbled upon the killer and paid the price. But Poirot notices the man's hands, calloused yet clean, with no trace of paint or struggle. He was no mere witness, he was targeted. Poirot questions a trembling maid, who saw the footman arguing with Harlan Thorpe earlier. Something about debts unpaid. Thorpe, when confronted, shrugs, his bulldog mask now discarded, revealing a face flushed with defiance. "He was a nobody poking into my business," Thorpe growls, but his eyes dart to the side, betraying unease. Poirot's mind whirls as he steps into the manor's garden, seeking clarity under the moonlit sky. The lavender scent, the missing key, the green smudge, the peacock feather, all threads in a tapestry of deceit. The mask of eternity is more than a prize. It's a catalyst, drawing out greed and vengeance. As he gazes at the manor's looming silhouette, a shadow flits across a window, too swift to identify, but enough to confirm the killer is still near, weaving their next move. The vault's secrets have only begun to surface, and Poirot senses the night will grow bloodier before the truth is unmasked. Chapter 4. The Dance of Motives. Hercule Poirot stands in the frost-kissed garden of Hawthorne Manor, the moonlight casting long shadows across the manicured hedges. The chill air bites at his face, but his mind burns with the clues unearthed in the vault. The missing mask of eternity, the emerald smudge, the lavender-scented letter, and the chilling discovery of the footman's body. The manor looms behind him, its windows like eyes watching his every move, as if the building itself guards the killer's identity. Poirot adjusts his coat and re-enters the grand hall, where the masquerade's remnants, scattered masks and abandoned champagne flutes, lie like relics of a broken illusion. The guests, now confined to the drawing room under Inspector Japp's watch, murmur in hushed tones, their painted faces replaced by expressions of fear and suspicion. Poirot knows the killer is among them, and the next stroke of their deadly brush is imminent. He begins by observing the key players, each a suspect in this intricate dance of motives. Lady Evelyn Hawthorne sits by a roaring fireplace, her peacock feather mask discarded, revealing a face pale and drawn. Her fingers twist a silk handkerchief, and her eyes avoid the crowd, fixed on a distant portrait of her husband. Poirot approaches, his voice soft but probing. "Madame, the feather found near the footman. Its hue matches your gown, and the scent of lavender clings to a letter I found. What do you conceal?" Evelyn's lips part, but she hesitates, claiming the feather must have fallen during the chaos, and denying knowledge of any letter. Yet her trembling hands betray a secret, and Poirot notes the faint lavender perfume lingering on her wrist, identical to the scent in the vault. Next, Poirot turns to Harlan Thorpe, the American tycoon who paces near a window, his bulldog mask now a crumpled heap on a side table. His ruddy face is slick with sweat, and his voice booms with false bravado as he recounts his evening. A heated exchange with Clara Voss over a failed art deal, a brief encounter with the footman about a gambling debt, and then drinks at the bar. "I'm no killer, Poirot," Thorpe insists, pounding a fist into his palm. "I make money, not corpses." But Poirot notices a smudge of green pigment on Thorpe's cuff, faint but unmistakable, mirroring the mark on the vault's pedestal. When questioned, Thorpe claims it's from handling a painting earlier, but his eyes flicker with unease, and Poirot senses a lie buried in his bluster. Émile Duval, the artist, hovers near a corner, his tear-streaked mask still in place, as if he fears revealing his true face. Poirot approaches, noting the man's paint-stained fingers and the nervous twitch in his jaw. "Monsieur Duval, your artistry adorns every mask tonight, yet one was altered with a killer's touch, and your presence near the gallery's painting was, how shall I say, most curious." Duval stammers. claiming he was merely admiring his own work. But Poirot recalls the wet paintbrushes in the storage room, their colours matching the streak on Clara's mask. Duval's alibi hinges on being alone, touching up masks, but a servant overhears him earlier, muttering about debts to be paid in blood. Poirot files this away, his mind weaving connections between the artist's trembling hands and the killer's precise strokes. As Poirot moves through the drawing room, he overhears a hushed conversation between two minor guests, a banker and a debutante, whispering about Lord Hawthorne's financial troubles. The banker mentions a loan Hawthorne failed to repay, tied to the Mask of Eternity's rumoured value. Poirot's ears prick up. Money, he knows, is a motive that paints many a crime. He seeks out Hawthorne, who has retreated to a study, his silver wolf mask now hanging loosely around his neck. The Lord's eyes are bloodshot, his voice hoarse. "I trusted Clara with secrets about the mask," he confesses. "But I swear I didn't kill her." Poirot presses about the missing vault key, and Hawthorne admits it vanished during a private meeting with Thorpe, though he refuses to elaborate, his face clouding with shame. A sudden commotion interrupts the interrogation. A maid bursts in, her apron stained with soot, reporting a fire in the east wing. A small blaze in a guest room, quickly extinguished but suspicious. Poirot rushes to the scene, finding charred curtains and a singed letter fragment on the floor, its words barely legible. The mask must never. The rest is ash, but the paper matches the vault's ledger. The fire, Poirot deduces, was no accident, but a desperate attempt to destroy evidence. He examines the room, finding a hidden drawer in a dresser, containing a single earring, ruby like Clara's mask, and engraved with her initials. Was this her room, or another clue planted by the killer? Poirot returns to the drawing room, his mind a whirl of motives. Evelyn's hidden fears, Thorpe's financial entanglements, Duval's artistic obsession, and Hawthorne's crumbling empire. The Mask of Eternity weaves through each story, a cursed thread tying greed to murder. As the clock ticks past 2 in the morning, the manor feels alive with secrets, its walls pulsing with the killer's next move. Poirot's gaze settles on a grand mirror across the room, reflecting the anxious faces of the guests. In its glass, he sees not just reflections but possibilities. A killer watching, waiting, their next act already painted in their mind. The dance of motives grows faster, and Poirot must step carefully to unmask the truth before the final curtain falls. Chapter 5. The Mirror's Truth. The grand mirror in the drawing room of Hawthorne Manor gleams under the flickering chandelier, reflecting the tense faces of the guests as Hercule Poirot paces before it. The night is thick with dread, the air heavy with the lingering smoke from the East Wing's fire and the weight of 2 murders, Clara Voss and the footman, each marked by a shattered mask. Poirot's sharp eyes dart between the reflections, searching for a telltale glance or a nervous tick that might betray the killer. The ruby earring found in the burned room, the charred letter fragment, and the green pigment smudge swirl in his mind, each a stroke on the canvas of this deadly mystery. The Mask of Eternity, stolen from its vault, looms as both prize and curse, and Poirot knows the killer's next move is near, hidden in the manor's labyrinth of lies. He begins by revisiting Lady Evelyn Hawthorne, who sits rigidly on a velvet settee, her hands folded tightly in her lap. The absence of her peacock feather mask reveals dark circles under her eyes, and her lavender scent seems stronger now, almost deliberate. Poirot kneels beside her, his voice gentle but firm. "Madame, the earring in the burned room, it belongs to Clara, oui? And the feather near the footman matches your gown. Speak plainly, for time is short." Evelyn's composure cracks, her lips trembling as she admits to a secret meeting with Clara before the ball. "She knew something about Reginald's debts," Evelyn whispers. "Something dangerous about the Mask of Eternity. I begged her to stay silent. but she denies entering the east wing or starting the fire, her eyes pleading for belief. Poirot notes a faint burn mark on her sleeve, barely visible, and wonders if her fear masks guilt. Turning to Harlan Thorpe, Poirot finds the tycoon nursing a whiskey by the fireplace, his broad shoulders slumped. The green smudge on his cuff, matching the vault's pigment, gnaws at Poirot's suspicions. Monsieur Thorpe, you spoke of handling a painting, yet this green is rare, tied to the mask of eternity. And your argument with the footman, debts perhaps worth killing for. Thorpe's face reddens, his voice a low growl. I owed the man a pittance, nothing more. As for the paint, I brushed against Duval's supplies in the gallery. Clumsy, that's all. But his fingers fidget with a gold cufflink, engraved with a bulldog. And Poirot recalls a similar glint described by the maid who saw a cloaked figure. Thorpe's story holds, but only just, like a fraying thread. Émile Duval, the artist, lingers near a window, his tear-streaked mask now clutched in his hands, revealing a face pale and drawn. Poirot approaches, his tone conversational yet piercing. Monsieur Duval, your paints are everywhere. On Clara's mask, in the vault, in the storage room. And you're muttering about debts in blood. What did you mean? Duval's eyes widen, his voice a stammer. Artistic passion, nothing more. I owed Clara for inspiring my work, but I'd never harm her. He claims he was sketching in the gallery during the fire, but a servant reports seeing him near the east wing, carrying a satchel that clinked like glass. Poirot's mind flashes to the paint vials in the storage room. Could they hold more than pigment? Poirot's attention shifts to Lord Hawthorne, who has rejoined the guests, his silver wolf mask back in place, as if to shield his crumbling resolve. Poirot confronts him about the missing vault key and the ledger's revelations. The Mask of Eternity's curse. Is it real, or a convenient tale to cover your debts? Hawthorne's jaw tightens, and he admits to borrowing heavily against the mask's rumoured value. But he swears it was locked away until tonight. Someone betrayed me, he mutters, glancing at Evelyn, then quickly away. Poirot notices a faint scratch on Hawthorne's hand, fresh and deep, as if from a struggle. Was it from forcing the gallery's side door, or something more sinister? A sudden disturbance breaks Poirot's focus. Inspector Japp bursts in, holding a small gold-trimmed box found in the garden, its lid etched with a wolf's head, Hawthorne's crest. Inside lies a single emerald, its hue identical to the vault's smudge, and a note in elegant script. The mask sees all. The guests gasp, and Poirot's mind races. The emerald links directly to the Mask of Eternity, but the note feels personal, a taunt aimed at the manor's heart. He examines the box, noting its polished surface is free of dirt, suggesting it was placed recently, not discarded. The killer, he realizes, is orchestrating a performance, each clue a deliberate act in their deadly play. Poirot steps to the mirror, its surface reflecting the crowded room. He studies the guests' faces. Evelyn's haunted gaze, Thorpe's forced bravado, Duval's nervous twitching, Hawthorne's guarded posture. The mirror, like the killer, hides the truth in plain sight. He recalls the footman's posed body, facing a mirror, and Clara's, angled toward the ballroom's reflection. The mirror's truth, Poirot murmurs, is that it shows only what the killer wishes us to see. A faint draught brushes his neck, and he turns to see a curtain flutter near a concealed passage. The manor's secrets are closing in, and Poirot knows the killer is watching, their next stroke already planned. The Mask of Eternity's curse tightens its grip, and the night's final act looms ever closer. Chapter 6. The Hidden Passage. Hercule Poirot stands before the grand mirror in the drawing room of Hawthorne Manor, its polished surface reflecting the anxious faces of the guests and the weight of the night's mounting mysteries. The gold-trimmed box with its emerald and cryptic note, "The mask sees all," burns in his mind, a taunt from a killer who weaves clues like threads in a deadly tapestry. The flutter of a curtain catches his eye, hinting at a concealed passage behind it. with the scent of lavender, the glint of emeralds, and the echoes of 2 murders guiding him. Poirot senses the manor's walls are closing in, hiding a path to the truth. He slips behind the curtain, his fingers brushing the cold stone, and finds a hidden latch. With a soft click, a panel slides open, revealing a narrow, cobweb-draped passage that snakes into the manor's heart. The passage is dark, its air damp and thick with the musty scent of age. Poirot lights a small pocket torch, its beam cutting through the gloom to reveal worn steps descending into shadow. The walls are lined with faded frescoes, depicting masked figures in eerie dances, their painted eyes seeming to follow him. As he moves deeper, he finds a discarded glove, black leather, small, with a faint trace of green pigment on its cuff, identical to the smudge in the vault. "Curieux," Poirot murmurs, pocketing the glove. The passage twists, leading to a junction where 3 paths diverge. One toward the east wing, where the fire smouldered, another toward the servants' quarters, and a third, narrower still, descending further into the manor's underbelly. A faint sound, a soft scrape like a footfall, echoes from the downward path, and Poirot's pulse quickens. He follows the sound, his torch illuminating a low-ceilinged chamber, its walls stacked with crates marked with foreign symbols. One crate is pried open, revealing a velvet-lined case, empty but shaped to hold a mask. Scattered nearby are paintbrushes, their bristles crusted with ruby and gold hues, matching Clara Voss's shattered mask. A single drop of wax on the floor suggests a candle was used recently, its light guiding someone through this secret lair. Poirot's mind races. This chamber, hidden from the manor's opulence, is the killer's workshop, where they plan their deadly art. He finds a crumpled sketch, half torn, depicting a masked figure holding a dagger, its style unmistakably Émile Duval's. But the paper is singed, as if someone tried to destroy it, mirroring the east wing's fire. A sudden clatter above pulls Poirot back to the passage. He ascends to find himself emerging behind a tapestry in the servants' quarters, where a young maid, Lily, stands frozen, clutching a tray that has spilled its contents. Silver spoons and a single peacock feather. Her eyes widen at Poirot's appearance, and she stammers, I was just cleaning, sir." But her apron is smudged with soot, and her hands tremble. Poirot questions her gently, learning she saw a cloaked figure in this corridor earlier, moving toward the east wing with a satchel that clinked like glass. "It wasn't human," she whispers, "like a shadow with no face." Poirot soothes her but notes her fear seems rehearsed, as if she's hiding more than she reveals. He returns to the drawing room, where the guests remain under Inspector Japp's watchful eye. Poirot confronts Lord Hawthorne about the hidden passage, and the Lord's face pales. "It's an old smuggling route," he admits, "used by my ancestors to hide treasures. I thought it sealed." But his voice falters, and Poirot notices a fresh cut on his knuckles, as if from forcing a crate open. Next, Poirot approaches Harlan Thorpe, showing him the glove. Thorpe denies owning it, but his eyes linger on the green smudge, and he shifts uncomfortably, muttering about too many secrets in this cursed place. Lady Evelyn, overhearing, clutches her handkerchief tighter, her lavender scent stronger now, almost masking another odour. Kerosene, faint but unmistakable. Poirot's gaze shifts to Émile Duval, who sits sketching nervously, his tear-streaked mask now tucked into his pocket. The sketch in the chamber nags at Poirot, Duval's hand, but whose motive? He recalls the artist's muttered words about debts in blood, and wonders if Duval's art conceals a darker obsession. As Poirot pieces together the clues, the glove, the sketch, the feather, the kerosene, the manor feels alive, its passages pulsing with the killer's presence. The Mask of Eternity, stolen and cursed, is the key, but the hidden chamber suggests a deeper plot, one that binds the guests in a web of greed and vengeance. Poirot steps back into the passage's entrance, the tapestry swaying behind him, and knows the killer's next move is already in motion, waiting in the manor's shadows. Chapter 7. The Whispered Curse. Hercule Poirot lingers at the entrance to the hidden passage in Hawthorne Manor's drawing room, the tapestry's heavy fabric still swaying slightly from his recent emergence. The discoveries within, the black leather glove with its telltale green pigment, the pried-open crate shaped for a mask, the singed sketch in Émile Duval's unmistakable style, and the maid Lily's evasive testimony weigh heavily on his mind, each a fragment of the larger mosaic of murder and deception. The mask of eternity, with its cursed legacy and emerald encrustations, remains elusive, yet its shadow stretches over every suspect, binding them in a web of greed, fear, and vengeance. The night presses on, the manor's clocks ticking inexorably toward dawn, but Poirot knows the killer will not wait for light to strike again. With Inspector Japp's men patrolling the halls and the guests confined, Poirot decides to delve deeper into the suspects' intertwined histories, starting with the one whose hands are stained not just with paint, but perhaps with blood. Émile Duval Poirot finds Duval in a quiet alcove off the drawing room, the artist hunched over a small table, his fingers absently tracing patterns on a napkin with a charcoal pencil. The tear-streaked mask lies discarded beside him, revealing a face etched with lines of exhaustion, and something darker, guilt perhaps, or despair. Duval's eyes, rimmed with red, flicker up as Poirot approaches, and he straightens slightly, though his posture remains defeated. "Monsieur Duval," Poirot begins, his voice a measured blend of sympathy and steel. "Your art graces this tragic night, yet it also marks the scenes of death. The sketch I found in the hidden chamber. Your hand, no, a masked figure with a dagger, singed as if to erase its existence. And the paints, fresh and matching those on Clara Voss's altered mask. It is time to unburden your soul." Duval's pencil snaps in his grip, and he stares at Poirot, his lips parting in a silent gasp before words tumble out in a rush. The artist confesses, his voice a hoarse whisper that echoes the manor's whispered curse. He admits to knowing about the Mask of Eternity long before the ball. Lord Hawthorne had commissioned him to create replicas for an exhibition, but during the process, Duval discovered the artifact's true power, or at least the legend surrounding it. "It was said to whisper secrets," Duval murmurs, his eyes distant, "to reveal hidden truths to its wearer, but at the cost of madness. I became obsessed, Monsieur Poirot. Clara, she modelled for me, her beauty inspiring my best work. But she learned of my fixation and threatened to expose me unless I shared the mask's secrets." His hands tremble as he describes a confrontation in the ballroom just before midnight, where Clara demanded a cut of the mask's potential sale value. Knowing Hawthorne's debts made it vulnerable, Duval claims he left her alive, retreating to the storage room to calm his nerves. But Poirot notes the artist's avoidance of eye contact when mentioning the paintbrushes, their bristles still wet with ruby hues. Pressing further, Poirot inquires about the glove found in the passage, and Duval's face pales further. "It could be mine," he admits reluctantly. "I lost one earlier this evening while navigating the old tunnels. I knew of them from my time sketching the manor's architecture for Hawthorne." But when Poirot mentions the green pigment, Duval shakes his head vehemently. "Not mine. I use traditional oils. Not that synthetic emerald shade. It's rare, imported, the kind Harlan Thorpe collects for his forgeries." This revelation sparks a new thread in Poirot's mind. Thorpe's art dealings, his argument with Clara over a failed deal, and the green smudge on his cuff. Duval's confession, while illuminating, feels incomplete, as if the artist is protecting someone or something deeper in the shadows. Poirot excuses himself from Duval and seeks out Harlan Thorpe, who has retreated to a leather armchair by the fireplace, a fresh whiskey in hand, his bulldog-like features set in a scowl. The tycoon's eyes narrow as Poirot approaches, but there's a wariness beneath his bluster, a crack in the facade of the self-made man. "What now, detective? Come to accuse me of painting pretty pictures?" Thorpe sneers, but Poirot ignores the barb, producing the glove from his pocket. "This pigment, Monsieur Thorpe. It matches the smudge on your cuff and the vault's pedestal. And Duval speaks of your forgeries using rare greens. Clara Voss knew of this, oui? Her business deal was no mere investment. It was blackmail." Thorpe's glass clatters to the table, spilling amber liquid, and his face flushes a deeper red. He admits, after a moment's hesitation, to dealing in replicated art, using the Mask of Eternity as a template for high-value fakes. "Clara found out," he growls. "Demanded a share or she'd ruin me. We argued, sure, but I didn't kill her. I stormed off to the garden for a smoke." Yet Poirot probes deeper, recalling the maid's sighting of a cloaked figure with a glinting satchel, and the emerald in the box left as a taunt. "Your cufflink gleams similarly, and your debts to the footman." Perhaps he knew too much. Thorpe's defiance crumbles slightly, and he reveals a surprising alliance. He had approached Lady Evelyn for help, knowing her own secrets about Hawthorne's finances. "She has her own reasons to want the mask sold," Thorpe mutters. "Something about a lover's debt." This whisper of infidelity adds another layer, linking Evelyn's lavender scent to the vault's letter, and the peacock feather near the footman's body. Poirot's little grey cells hum with activity, piecing together motives that intersect like brushstrokes on a canvas. As Poirot moves to question Evelyn, a sudden cry pierces the drawing room. The guests surge toward the source. A side parlour where Lily, the maid, lies slumped against a wall, her simple uniform stained with blood, a shattered porcelain mask clutched in her hand. The mask, plain white like the footman's, is cracked across the eyes, and a thin dagger protrudes from her chest, its handle wrapped in a scrap of peacock blue fabric. Inspector Japp seals the room, but Poirot kneels to examine the scene. No struggle marks, suggesting she knew her attacker, and a faint whisper of kerosene lingers, tying back to the east wing fire. Lily's eyes, still open, seem to stare accusingly toward the drawing room door, as if her last sight was her killer fleeing. The murder sends ripples of panic through the guests. Evelyn faints into her husband's arms, her handkerchief dropping to reveal a hidden key, the original vault key, glinting in the firelight. Hawthorne's face twists in shock, and he stammers that he thought it lost. Duval rushes forward, his hands outstretched as if to help. But Poirot notices fresh charcoal smudges on his fingers, matching marks on Lily's wrist. Thorpe remains seated, his whiskey forgotten, his eyes fixed on the parlour door with a mix of horror and calculation. Poirot's mind races. Lily's knowledge of the passages, her evasive answers, her proximity to the secrets. She must have seen too much. Perhaps the killer retrieving the Mask of Eternity from its hidden crate. Gathering the suspects, Poirot begins to outline connections. Duval's obsession, Thorpe's forgeries, Evelyn's possible infidelity, Hawthorne's debts, and now Lily's silencing. The whispered curse of the mask seems real, claiming lives in its wake. But Poirot senses the truth is close, hidden not in legends but in human frailty. As he studies the shattered porcelain mask, noting its edges dusted with emerald pigment, a pattern emerges, the killer's signature, deliberate and artistic. The night deepens, the manor's shadows lengthening, and Poirot knows the final confrontation looms. The Mask of Eternity's secrets ready to be unveiled in a climax of revelation and justice. Chapter 8. The unravelling tapestry. The air in Hawthorne Manor's drawing room crackles with tension, the flickering firelight casting long shadows as Hercule Poirot stands over the body of Lily, the maid, her lifeless hand clutching a shattered porcelain mask, the dagger in her chest, wrapped in peacock blue fabric, and the vault key revealed in Lady Evelyn's dropped handkerchief, weave new threads into the deadly tapestry of the night. The Mask of Eternity, with its emerald glint and whispered curse, remains missing, yet its presence haunts every corner of the manor, driving the killer to silence those who know too much. Poirot's sharp eyes sweep the room, noting the pale faces of Lord Hawthorne, Lady Evelyn, Harlan Thorpe, and Emile Duval, each a suspect bound by secrets. The manor's oppressive silence feels like a held breath, and Poirot knows the killer's next move is imminent, hidden in the unravelling motives of greed, betrayal, and fear. Poirot begins with Lady Evelyn, who has regained consciousness but clings to her husband, her lavender-scented handkerchief now evidence of her deception. "Madame," Poirot says, holding up the vault key, its silver surface catching the light. "This key was lost, according to Lord Hawthorne, yet it falls from your hand. And the peacock fabric on the dagger, another thread to your gown. Explain, or the truth will speak for you." Evelyn's eyes brim with tears, but her voice is steady as she reveals a partial truth. She took the key from Hawthorne's chain during a moment of panic, fearing the mask of eternity's curse would ruin them. "I wanted to destroy it," she insists, "to save Reginald from his debts." But when pressed about Lily's murder, she falters, claiming she was in the drawing room all evening. Poirot notices a faint tremor in her fingers and a smudge of kerosene on her cuff, linking her to the East Wing fire and raising questions about her true intentions. Turning to Lord Hawthorne, Poirot confronts him about the key's theft and the ledger's tales of debt. Hawthorne's silver wolf mask hangs loosely, his face a mask of its own, etched with shame. "I borrowed against the mask's value," he admits, his voice low, "but I never meant for anyone to die. Clara knew too much about my creditors, and Lily, she overheard my plans to sell the mask." His eyes dart to Evelyn, and Poirot senses a fracture in their marriage, a betrayal deeper than finances. The scratch on Hawthorne's knuckles, noticed earlier, now seems more significant, perhaps from a struggle with Lily, or even Clara, in the hidden passage. "You knew of the smuggling tunnels," Poirot presses, "and their secrets. Did you use them to move the mask?" Hawthorne shakes his head, but his silence speaks louder than words. Harlan Thorpe, still seated by the fireplace, interrupts with a scoff, his whiskey glass now empty. "You're barking up the wrong tree, Poirot. I'm no saint, but I'm no murderer." Poirot holds up the black glove, its green pigment a damning clue. "This glove, Monsieur Thorpe, and the emerald smudge on your cuff, they tie you to the vault and the mask's theft. And your forgeries, exposed by Clara, gave her power over you." Thorpe's jaw tightens, and he reveals a new detail. He had hired the footman to spy on Hawthorne's dealings, hoping to secure the mask for a black market buyer. "The fool got greedy," Thorpe growls, "demanded more than his share." But when Poirot mentions the cloaked figure with a glinting satchel, Thorpe's bravado falters, and he mutters about seeing Duval near the East Wing, carrying a bag that clinked like glass. Poirot finds Emile Duval sketching feverishly in the alcove, his hands stained with fresh charcoal. The artist's tear-streaked mask lies crumpled, and his eyes are wild with fear. "Monsieur Duval," Poirot says, producing the singed sketch from the hidden chamber. "This is your work, a prelude to murder." "And Lily, her wrist bore charcoal marks, as if you grabbed her before she died." Duval's hands shake, and he confesses to exploring the passages, seeking inspiration for his art. "I drew the mask's legend," he says, "but I didn't kill. Lily saw me in the tunnels, yes, but she was alive when I left her." His voice cracks, and Poirot notices a fresh paint stain on his sleeve. Ruby red like Clara's mask, but mixed with a hint of emerald. Was Duval painting more than pictures, or is he a pawn in a larger game? A sudden gust of wind rattles the drawing room windows, and a guest screams as a shadow flits past the glass. A cloaked figure, fleeting but unmistakable. Poirot rushes to the window, but the figure vanishes into the garden's darkness. He orders Jap to search the grounds, then examines the window frame, finding a fresh scratch and a single emerald bead, its facets glinting like the mask of eternity's rumoured gems. The bead matches the one found in the gold-trimmed box, and Poirot's mind races. The killer is taunting them, moving freely through the manor's secrets while the guests remain trapped. He gathers the suspects, noting their reactions. Evelyn's gasp, Hawthorne's clenched fists, Thorpe's narrowed eyes, and Duval's frozen stare. The tapestry of motives. Evelyn's desperation, Hawthorne's debts, Thorpe's greed, Duval's obsession is unravelling, but one thread remains hidden. Poirot steps into the hall, drawn to a faint sound, a soft drip, like water on stone. It leads him to a small closet, where a trapdoor lies open, revealing another passage. A trail of wet paint, emerald green, marks the floor, leading downward. The killer, Poirot realises, is circling back to their lair, perhaps to retrieve the mask or to silence another witness. The manor's secrets are converging, and the truth is close, but the night's final stroke is yet to fall. Poirot descends, his torch steady, ready to confront the shadow behind the mask. Chapter 9. The lair of the mask. Hercule Poirot descends the narrow trapdoor passage, the beam of his pocket torch cutting through the suffocating darkness of Hawthorne Manor's underbelly. The trail of wet emerald paint on the stone floor guides him, each glistening drop a silent taunt from the killer who has claimed Clara Voss, the footman, and now Lily, the maid. The manor's oppressive silence is broken only by the faint drip of water and the echo of his own measured steps. The mask of eternity, with its cursed legend and emerald gleam, is close. Poirot can feel its pull, a magnet drawing the threads of greed, betrayal, and vengeance into a deadly knot. The emerald bead, the cloaked figure, and the unravelling motives of Lady Evelyn, Lord Hawthorne, Harlan Thorpe, and Emile Duval swirl in his mind, but the truth lies ahead, in the killer's lair. The passage opens into a cavernous chamber, its walls rough-hewn and damp, lit by a single flickering lantern hung from a rusted hook. Crates and canvases clutter the space, but Poirot's eyes are drawn to a stone altar at the centre, draped in black velvet. On it rests a golden mask, its surface encrusted with emeralds that pulse in the dim light. The mask of eternity, at last. Its craftsmanship is breathtaking, each gem set with precision, but its eyes, hollow and dark, seem to stare through Poirot, whispering of the deaths it has inspired. Beside the mask lies a bloodied paintbrush, its bristles caked with ruby and gold, and a small vial of emerald pigment, its cap loose, explaining the trail. Mon Dieu, Poirot murmurs. The killer's canvas is complete, yet the artist remains hidden. He examines the altar, finding a hidden drawer beneath the velvet. Inside is a bundle of letters, tied with a peacock blue ribbon, their handwriting matching the cryptic note from the gold-trimmed box. The mask sees all. The letters reveal a conspiracy. Clara Voss had been working with an unknown partner to steal the mask, promising to split its value to settle Hawthorne's debts. One letter, addressed to Evelyn, hints at her knowledge of the plan, but warns her to stay silent, signed only with a stylized M. Poirot's mind flashes to the lavender scent on Evelyn's handkerchief and the kerosene on her cuff. Could M be a lover or a red herring planted by the killer? A soft scrape behind a crate snaps Poirot's attention. He moves silently, his torch revealing a cloaked figure crouched in the shadows, their face obscured by a plain white mask, identical to those worn by the footman and Lily. The figure clutches a satchel, its contents clinking softly. Glass vials, perhaps, or stolen jewels. "Reveal yourself," Poirot commands, his voice steady. The figure bolts, knocking over a crate that spills paint cans across the floor, their colours mixing in a chaotic swirl of ruby, gold, and emerald. Poirot pursues, navigating the cluttered chamber, but the figure slips through a side passage, leaving behind a single emerald bead, identical to those found earlier. The chase ends at a locked iron gate, its bars cold and unyielding, but Poirot notices a fresh scratch on the lock, as if forced open and relocked in haste. Returning to the altar, Poirot finds a new clue. A locket, half buried under the velvet, engraved with a peacock and containing a faded photograph of Clara Voss and a younger Evelyn, their arms linked, smiling in a garden. The locket's chain is broken, as if torn off in a struggle. Poirot's little grey cells hum. Evelyn's connection to Clara was deeper than admitted, perhaps a friendship turned sour by the mask's allure. He pockets the locket and ascends to the drawing room, where the guests remain under Inspector Japp's guard, their faces etched with exhaustion and fear. Poirot confronts Evelyn with the locket, watching her eyes widen in recognition. "You and Clara were close," he says. "Yet you hid this bond. Did she betray you for the mask? Or did you betray her?" Evelyn's composure shatters, and she admits Clara was her confidant, privy to her fears about Hawthorne's ruin. "She changed," Evelyn whispers, "became obsessed with the mask's power. I tried to stop her." But her story falters when Poirot mentions the letters signed M. She claims ignorance, yet her fingers clutch the peacock ribbon from her gown. Now frayed, Harlan Thorpe, overhearing, laughs bitterly. "You're all tangled in this mess," he says. But Poirot turns to him, noting the emerald bead's twin in his pocket. "And you, Monsieur Thorpe, chase the mask for profit, yet your satchel's clink betrays you. Were you in the lair?" Thorpe denies it, claiming he was in the garden, but his cufflink, engraved with a bulldog, matches the glint seen by the maid. Émile Duval, meanwhile, sits silently, his hands clean of paint for the first time, but his eyes dart to the passage's entrance, as if expecting pursuit. Lord Hawthorne, his wolf mask discarded, stares at the locket, his face a mask of guilt. "Clara was like family," he mutters, but Poirot senses a lie in his grief. The chamber's clues, the mask, the letters, the locket, point to a killer who knows the manor's secrets intimately. The cloaked figure's escape suggests they're still moving, perhaps preparing their final act. Poirot glances at the drawing room's mirror, its reflection showing a fractured truth. Evelyn's hidden past, Thorpe's greed, Duval's obsession, Hawthorne's desperation. The mask of eternity's curse feels palpable, its emeralds a lure for death. As a distant clock chimes, Poirot knows the killer is close, their identity teetering on the edge of revelation, ready to be unmasked in the manor's final deadly stroke. Chapter 10. The Final Stroke. Hercule Poirot stands in the heart of Hawthorne Manor's drawing room, the flickering firelight casting eerie shadows on the faces of the gathered suspects. Lady Evelyn Hawthorne, Lord Reginald Hawthorne, Harlan Thorpe, and Émile Duval. The mask of eternity, recovered from the hidden chamber's altar, rests on a table before them, its emerald-encrusted surface glinting with a malevolent beauty. The night has been a canvas of death. Clara Voss, the footman, and Lily, the maid, all silenced by a killer whose brushstrokes mark shattered masks and cryptic clues. The emerald bead, the peacock ribbon, the locket, the paint-smeared glove, and the letters signed M have woven a tapestry of deception. But now, as dawn's first light creeps through the windows, Poirot's little grey cells align the final pieces. The killer's identity, hidden behind a painted mask, is about to be revealed. Poirot begins, his voice calm but commanding, drawing the guests' attention like a conductor before a symphony. "Mes amis, this night has been a masterpiece of murder, each death a stroke of a cunning artist. Clara Voss killed for her knowledge, the footman silenced for his greed, and Lily eliminated for what she saw. The mask of eternity, with its whispered curse, was the lure, but the true motive lies in human frailty, greed, betrayal, and a desperate need to protect a secret." He pauses, his eyes scanning the room, noting Evelyn's trembling hands. Hawthorne's clenched jaw, Thorpe's uneasy shifting, and Duval's frozen stare. The mirror behind them reflects their guilt, a silent witness to the truth. He turns first to Harlan Thorpe, whose bulldog-like bravado has faded. Monsieur Thorpe, your forgeries were the spark. Clara discovered your plan to replicate the Mask of Eternity for profit, threatening to expose you. Your argument with her, your emerald-smudged cuff, and the glinting cufflink seen by the maid place you in the web, but you are not the spider. You fled to the garden, but only after planting the emerald bead to mislead us. Thorpe's shoulders slump, his silence an admission, but Poirot moves on, knowing the tycoon's greed was exploited, not the driving force. Next, Poirot addresses Lord Hawthorne, whose silver wolf mask lies discarded, revealing a face etched with ruin. Monsieur, your debts drove you to desperation. The Mask of Eternity was your salvation, but Clara knew of your plans to sell it, and Lily overheard your secrets. The scratch on your knuckles, the missing vault key. You used the smuggling tunnels to move the mask. But your heart was not cold enough for murder. Hawthorne's eyes glisten with shame, and he nods, confessing to hiding the mask to protect his family, but denying the killings. Poirot believes him, sensing a man broken by circumstance, not bloodlust. Émile Duval, the artist, is next, his hands now clean but his eyes haunted. Monsieur Duval, your obsession with the mask's legend fueled your art. The singed sketch, the ruby paint on Clara's mask, the charcoal on Lily's wrist, all point to you. You knew the passages, you painted the victims' masks, and your debts in blood hinted at vengeance. Yet your fear betrays you. You are a witness, not the killer, manipulated by another's hand. Duval collapses, sobbing, admitting he painted the masks under duress, coerced by threats to expose his own dark past. Finally, Poirot turns to Lady Evelyn, her lavender scent now a damning signature. Madame, you wove this deadly tapestry, the peacock feather, the kerosene on your cuff, the vault key in your handkerchief, the locket linking you to Clara, all reveal your hand. You were her friend, but her greed for the mask's power turned her against you. The letters signed M, for Marguerite, your true name, hidden from society, show you planned to steal the mask with Clara. But when she demanded more, you killed her, altering her mask to taunt us. The footman, privy to your debts, was next, and Lily, who saw you in the passages, became your final victim. Evelyn's face crumples, her voice a whisper. I had to protect Reginald, our name, our future. The mask's curse, it drove me to it. Poirot shakes his head. Non, madame, the curse is but a story. Your fear and greed painted these deaths. He reveals the final clue, the peacock blue fabric on Lily's dagger, torn from Evelyn's gown during a struggle in the hidden chamber. The emerald pigment, exclusive to her private art collection, sealed her guilt. Inspector Japp steps forward, handcuffs ready, as Evelyn collapses into a chair, her confessions spilling like paint. She used the passages, her access to Duval's paints, and her knowledge of the manor to orchestrate the murders, believing the mask's sale would save them. As Japp leads Evelyn away, the guests exhale, the manor's oppressive air lifting. The Mask of Eternity, now secured, seems to lose its menace in the morning light. Poirot adjusts his moustache, his work complete. The human heart, he says softly, is the true mask, hiding truths until the final stroke reveals all. He turns to the camera, his eyes twinkling. If you've enjoyed this tale of mystery, mes amis, subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world. Comment below with your thoughts, and join us for more stories that unmask the heart's secrets.